This is the second video segment for homework number 13. So I'm dealing with proving these identities. Okay, there are two parts. It says verify algebraically, and that's what I'm going to do. And then it says confirm graphically. I'm not going to worry about part B, and I'll talk about it in class. Why is it that uh, to me at least, it's more important to be able to do A. Okay, so let's go to a blank page and start with number 27. Okay, so number 27, cosine of x divided by secant of x sine of x. You want to prove that this is cosecant of x minus sine of x. Now remember, when it comes to proving identities, there are no magic rules. There are certain strategies that one can have. For example, one can start with the left side and play with it and eventually get the right side. Or you can start with the right side, this side, and play with it and then get the left side, as you can see. Or you can simultaneously work on these, and at some point you have equalities between them. Okay, so let me do first of all, go from left to right. This may not be the best strategy, but let's see. So we have cos x divided by secant x sine x. Okay, and this thing is cos x. So I'm starting with the left hand side. Okay, and I'm trying to force my way to right hand side. Divided by, now remember, secant is 1 over cosine. Okay, and then of course sine x stands. So this is cos x divided by sine x over cos x. And this is equal to, let me not take any drastic steps, which can confuse some people. So cos x times the reciprocal, cos x over sine x. And this is equal to cos squared x divided by sine x. Now, cos squared x, this thing, I can write it as 1 minus sine squared x. And of course, sine x stays at the bottom. And we know that we can do this, 1 over sine of x minus this, sine squared x over sine of x. And this is equal to, that term is cosecant of x minus this term is sine of x. And this is your right hand side. We started with the left hand side, we ended up with the right hand side. Let me try to do it the other way around. Now the other way around, think about it. You have to take exactly the same steps, except that you work your way this way, go that way, which is not as obvious as what it should be doing. Look, Control Z, let me get rid of this stuff. Okay, here, look. If you want to go from right hand side to left hand side, first, okay, you write this, okay. Then you write this, which is not obvious to some of you. Why, why should you do that? And then do this one, this step, and that step. So not a good idea. In this problem, it is better to start with a more complicated side, which looks like that, and try to force your way to the right-hand side. Okay, let's do the next one, which is number 28. We're supposed to prove that tangent of y over cosecant of y equal to secant of y minus cosine of y. And again, the choice is yours. You can go from left to right, or if you can, possible, go from right to left. Okay, so I'm going to go start with the left-hand side. I don't want you to get the impression you always start with the left-hand side. To me, this looks more complicated than that, so I start with that side. Tangent of y over cosecant of y. Now, tangent of y is sine of y over cosine of y, and cosecant is 1 over sine of y. Now, we have the ratio of two fractions, so we know how to handle it from arithmetic, grade school arithmetic. Sine y reciprocal of this, and this is equal to sine squared y over cosine of y. Okay, and notice that once again I use my fundamental identity that this fellow is 1 minus cos squared y over cosine of y, and then I use the basic arithmetic steps that this is equal to 1 over cos y minus that cos squared y. Ooh. What is it? Minus cos squared y over cos y. So this is 1 over cos y minus cos y. Cos squared over cos is cos y. And this is secant of y minus cosine of y. And I hope this is my right-hand side. Yeah, see this? Right there. This is your right-hand side. If you had started from your right-hand side and you wanted to make your way back to the left-hand side, you have to backtrack all of these steps, and eventually you end up with where you started with. Okay, let's do the next one. Number 31. So we want to prove cosine of u, secant of u over tangent of u. We want to show that it's equal to cotangent of u. Needless to say, this is the more complicated side, so I start with the left-hand side and do my stuff. So this is cosine of u. Secant is 1 over cos u divided by tangent of u. And this is equal to, well, this cancels that, so 1 over tangent of u. And obviously, this is cotangent of u. And this is your right-hand side. Okay, next one. 32. What have we got? We're supposed to prove that cotangent of x times secant of x over cosecant of x equal to 1. So we work with the left-hand side and work our way there. So left-hand is equal to 1. Left-hand side, cotangent, I'm going to write it as cosine of x over sine of x. And secant is 1 over cosine of x. And the denominator is 1 over sine of x. Let's play it. So over here, this cancels that. 1 over sine of x divided by 1 over sine of x. And needless to say, this is your 1, which is your right-hand side. Next one, 33. We're supposed to show that sine of b plus cosine of b times cotangent of b equal to cosecant of b. So we start with the more complicated side, which is our left-hand side. Left-hand side, sine of b plus cosine of b times cotangent of b. Well, let's replace cotangent with cosine over sine. This is sine of b plus cosine of b. I'm sorry. Oh boy. Okay. Cosine of b. Cosine of b over sine of b. And this is equal to sine of b sine of b, cosine squared b divided by sine of b. Now notice that I can take these are two things. I can combine them using a common denominator. And common denominator is sine of b. So this is sine squared b plus cosine squared b over sine of b. Please make sure you understand steps like this, because I have not written down literally the common denominator as sine squared over sine and then combine it. I've done it, skipped one step. So and the top is 1 over sine of b, and of course this is cosecant of b. If you don't see how I went from here direct to there, think about it, do it your own way, do it the long way if you have a long way, and make sure you come up with that. Okay. Next one. Which one would that be? This is number 34. We want to prove that cosine of minus x minus sine of minus x equal to cosine of x plus sine of x. So left hand side is this, cosine of minus x minus sine of minus x. However, cosine is an even function, so this is the same as cosine of x, and sine is an odd function, so it's going to be minus sine of x. This minus comes out, but there's already a minus sign in between, so this is cos x plus sine x, which is your right hand side. Okay, 34. Let's do 35. What is it? Cotangent of minus alpha times cosine of minus alpha plus sine of minus alpha. You want to show or prove that this is that this is equal to minus cosecant of alpha. Right. All right. Left hand side. Well, let's recall that the cotangent is 1 over tangent. Cosine is an even function, so it's going to be cosine of alpha. And sine is an odd function, so take the minus sign out, minus sine of alpha. And remember, tangent is an odd function, so it's going to be 1 over minus tangent of alpha, cos alpha, minus sine alpha. And let's write the stuff in terms of sine and cosine. So this is going to be a minus cosine of alpha divided by sine alpha over cos alpha, sine alpha over cos of alpha minus sine of alpha. So it's this thing divided by fraction. So mine use the reciprocal of the fraction. Cosine of alpha times the reciprocal of the fraction. Very good. And this is equal to minus cosine squared alpha over sine of alpha minus sine of alpha. Common denominator is sine of alpha. So that's sine squared alpha over sine alpha. And this is equal to minus cosine squared alpha minus sine squared alpha over sine of alpha. The top is minus 1, because if you factor the minus, you get sine squared plus cosine squared, which is 1. And the bottom is sine of alpha. And this is minus cosecant of alpha, which is your right hand side. Okay? So we just proved that one. Let me go to another page, another document here. Insert blank page. Okay. Where are we? Number 36. Number 36. Cosecant of x times cosecant of x plus sine of minus x. We're supposed to prove that this is cotangent of x squared, or cotangent squared of x. Okay. So let's see. Well, maybe in this particular problem, we multiply these out. Cosecant x, or cosecant squared of x. And then there is a cosecant of x, we FOIL it, right? Time. Now remember, this is an odd function, so we can write it as minus sine of x multiplied by minus sine of x. So this is cosecant squared x minus. Now minus and minus makes it plus. These two minuses make it plus. Cosecant of x sine of x. Okay. Now this is cosecant of x plus. Notice that this is 1 over sine times sine. This whole thing is 1. Cosecant of x is 1 over sine of x times sine of x is 1. And let me remind you, one of our fundamental identities was that this is cotangent squared of x. Now, if you did not remember that, you can do it by brute force, because cosecant squared of x is 1 over sine squared x, right? Is that right? I just made a mistake. Just made a mistake here. Sorry. This sign, let me fix this thing. This actually is a plus. When you FOIL it, you get a plus right there. The minus sign is still there, so that makes this thing minus, and this is minus. And from the basic that identity, that a fundamental identity I mentioned, this is going to be cotangent squared. Now, if you didn't remember this, you can do it by brute force. Minus 1, and this is sine squared x, 1 minus sine squared x, and the top of this is cosine squared x divided by sine squared x, and this is cotangent squared x. See, you did not have to remember this identity. You could have done it by brute force and come up with the same conclusion that's on your right-hand side. 45, number 45. We have to prove that 1 over 1 minus sine squared y equal to 1 plus tangent squared y. 1 plus tangent squared y. This is the kind of problem that it may be a good idea to start on both sides and get to the same place. For example, left side, I can write it as 1 over cosine squared y, right? That's what this thing is. 1 minus sine squared is cosine squared. And the right side, I put a question mark here because we really don't know. We want to show that all these two sides the same. 1 plus sine squared y over cosine squared y. Okay, good. So left side, I leave it the way it is. Right side is going to be common denominator is cosine squared y plus sine squared y. See that? I'm working on this. It's going to give you that. But the numerator is 1 over cosine squared y. So notice that I worked with this simultaneously, with left side and right side simultaneously, and I reached a point that is obvious. Therefore, that identity is true. Therefore, original identity, original expression is true. Okay, so let's go and do number 46. Okay, number 46. You want to prove or show that cosecant of x minus sine of x equal to cosine of x times cotangent of x. So again, it may be a good idea to work with these simultaneously. So I'll put a question mark here. We don't know. So let's work on this simultaneously. On the right side, we have cosine of x. And this fellow is cosine of x over sine of x. Let's work on the left side. 1 over sine of x minus sine of x. Let's take another step on both sides. On this side, the common denominator is sine of x. So you have 1 minus sine squared x. On this side is cosine squared x over sine x. Now, of course, this is cosine squared x over sine x. And hey, it's right there. Cosine squared x over sine x. So we work on both sides simultaneously, and we reach the place where the two are obviously the same. Can I start with the left side and end up with the right side? Of course you can. This is another way of doing the problem. But it's also possible, if necessary, or simpler to do it on both sides and reach the conclusion. What's the next one? Number 47. Cotangent of x minus cosecant of x times cosine of x plus 1. We want to prove that it's equal to minus sine of x. Okay. Minus sine of x. Okay. Well, let's start with the left-hand side, and write cotangent as cosine of x over sine of x. This thing is 1 over sine of x times cosine of x plus 1. This is equal to common denominator is sine of x, and up in the numerator I have cosine of x minus 1 times cosine of x plus 1. Okay? Okay. So FOIL it. Sine of x in the bottom. We have cos x minus 1 times cos x plus 1. If you FOIL it, you get cosine squared x plus cosine of x minus cosine of x minus 1 over sine of x. These two cancel each other out. And this thing is minus sine squared x. Remember, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So cosine squared x minus 1 is minus sine squared. Write it down and work it out, please. So this is equal to minus sine of x, and this is your right hand side. We started on the left hand side, and we showed that it's equal to the right hand side. We started here, and we showed that it's equal to that. I'm going to stop this thing. The rest of this will be done in the final video segment.